My hands were shaking like a leaf in the wind as I held the photo. I looked at the picture, and then I looked at the heavy iron box we just dug out from the ground. The box was rusty and covered in red mud. It looked like something they buried 50 years ago, long before I became a man. But inside this old rusty box was a picture of me. It was not an old picture. It was a picture of me sleeping in my bed in Lagos. I turned the photo over. My blood turned to water. On the back, someone had written today's date with a blue pen. The time written was 6 in the morning. I looked at my expensive wristwatch. It was 2 in the afternoon. How can a picture taken this morning inside my bedroom in Lagos enter a box that was buried deep under the ground in the village for 50 years? My heart started beating giggity inside my chest. I looked at the bulldozer driver. He was looking at me with big fear in his eyes. I looked at the bush nearby, and I saw my brothers watching me. They were not surprised. They were crying. Let me take you back a little bit so you will understand why this matter is heavy. My name is Tunde. In Lagos, everybody knows me. They call me Chief or Chairman. I am not a small boy. I have worked hard for my money. I have plenty cars and big houses. But for 7 years, I have been fighting a serious war. It was not a war with guns or knives, but it was a war for land. I was fighting my own brothers, Femi and Bayo. Our father died a long time ago and left a big piece of land in our village. This land is beautiful. It is on top of a hill. If you stand there, you can see the whole town. I told my brothers that we should build a big hotel there. I told them that people from the city would come and pay plenty money to sleep there. I told them we would become rich. But Femi and Bayo are village men. They do not know book, and they do not like money. They told me that our father said the land is forbidden. They said the land is called Ile-Eeru, which means the land of ashes. They said nobody must dig the ground there. They said if we dig it, we will wake up something that is sleeping. I was very angry with them. I thought they were jealous of my success. I thought they were just being superstitious village people who believe in juju and old stories. I am a modern man. I use iPhone. I fly into aeroplane. I do not have time for old stories. So I took them to court. I spent millions of naira on heavy lawyers. The case dragged on for a long time. My brothers begged me to stop. Femi came to my office in Lagos one day. He removed his cap and knelt down. He said, "Tunde, please, leave that land alone." He said the land is not for us, that our father was just a guard for the land. He said there are things in this world that money cannot buy and money cannot fight. I laughed at him. I told him to go back to the village and plant yam. Last week, the judge finally hit his hammer on the table. He said the land belongs to me. I was so happy I danced in the court. I did not waste time at all. I wanted to show my brothers that I am the winner. Early this morning, I left Lagos with a big caterpillar machine. I wanted to dig the foundation of my hotel today. I wanted to break the ground so my brothers would know that I am the owner. When we got to the village, I did not even greet anybody. I just commanded the driver to drive the machine to the land. The engine of the machine was roaring loud. Vroom, vroom. It sounded like power. I lit a cigar and stood there like a king. I told the driver to dig deep. I wanted the foundation to be strong. The machine raised its iron bucket and hit the ground. It tore the grass and the soil. I was smiling. Then, about 20 minutes later, we heard a loud sound. Kabam! The machine hit something that was not a stone. The sound echoed in the forest. It sounded like iron hitting iron. I told the driver to stop. I jumped down into the hole. We used our hands to clear the red sand. That was when we saw the box. It was a metal box, welded shut on all sides. It looked evil. It looked heavy. I told the driver to bring a crowbar and force it open. He was shaken, but he feared me more than the box. He forced it open with a loud screeching noise, and there it was, the picture. Now I'm standing here holding a photo of myself sleeping this morning inside a box that was buried before I was born. The wind suddenly stopped blowing. The birds stopped singing. The silence in the village was heavy, like a thick blanket. I looked at the picture again. In the photo, my mouth was open a little bit, the way I sleep when I'm tired. The bed sheet was the same blue silk my wife bought last week. This was impossible. This was madness. I looked up at my brothers again. Femi shook his head slowly, tears rolling down his rough cheeks. He did not say a word, but his eyes said everything. He was telling me that I have opened a door that cannot be closed, and for the first time in my life, my money could not help me. I was afraid, proper fear.
My anger exploded like a bomb. I looked at the driver, who was shaking like a wet chicken. I shouted at him to stop looking at me like that. I asked him if he was part of this plan to make me look foolish. The man did not even answer me. He looked at the box, then he looked at the dark forest behind us, and he threw his helmet on the ground. He started running. He did not ask for his money. He did not turn off the engine of the caterpillar. He just ran into the bush as if a lion was chasing him. I called his name, but he did not look back. Now it was just me and my brothers. I climbed out of the red hole, clutching that terrible photograph in my hand. I marched towards Femi and Bio. My expensive leather shoes were sinking into the soft mud, but I did not care. I held the picture up to Femi's face. I asked him how much he paid the magician to do this trick. I asked him how he managed to put a fresh picture inside a box that's older than our father. I told him that I'm too smart for this kind of village nonsense. I told him that they know they want to scare me away so they can steal my property. Femi did not get angry. That was the thing that scared me the most. If he had shouted back, I would have felt better. But he just looked at me with sad eyes. He spoke softly. He said, "Tunde, you have broken the seal." He said the thing that lives in the soil has been hungry for a long time. He said, "Look at the sky." I looked up. The sun was still there, but the light looked strange. It was yellow and sickly, like the color of an old bruise. The air suddenly felt very cold, even though it was afternoon. Bio, who had not spoken since morning, finally opened his mouth. He whispered that we cannot help you anymore. He said the land has marked you. Then he turned around. Femi followed him. They started walking back towards the village path. I screamed at them to come back. I told him I would arrest them. I told him I would destroy the whole village. They did not stop. They walked until the bush swallowed him up. I was alone. I sat inside my big black car. The leather seat felt cold against my back. I locked all the doors. I wanted to prove to myself that I was not mad. I picked up my phone and dialed my wife's number in Lagos. I needed to hear her voice. I needed her to tell me that this was all a joke. Bisi picked the call after 2 rings. I asked her if she was at home. She said yes. I asked her if anybody had entered our bedroom today. She said no, only the cleaner. I asked her to go to the bedroom right now. I waited while she walked up the stairs. My heart was beating hard against my ribs. She got to the room. I asked her to look at the bed. I asked her if everything was normal. She said, yes, the bed is made, the room is clean. I asked her if she saw any camera hidden anywhere. She laughed. She said, Tunde, have you started drinking this early? She said, there is no camera. I cut the call. I looked at the photo in my hand again. It was still there. Me, sleeping, this morning. If nobody took the picture and no camera was there, then who saw me sleeping? Suddenly, the engine of the caterpillar, which the driver left running, made a strange noise. Cough, cough, cough. Then it died. The silence that followed was heavy. It was not a peaceful silence. It was a silence that was watching me. I looked out of my car window at the hole we had dug. The sun had gone down completely now. Darkness was covering the land. I turned on my car headlights to see the hole. The bright beams of light hit the pile of red earth in the open iron box. I gasped. The box was not empty anymore. When I first opened it, there was only the photo. But now, in the light of my car, I saw something else inside the box. It was rising up slowly. It looked like mud, but it was moving. It was forming a shape. I rubbed my eyes. I thought maybe I was tired, but the shape became clear. It was a small house made of red, wet mud. It was not just any house. It had a balcony. It had a specific roof shape. It was a perfect small model of my house in Lagos. I watched in horror as a small window formed on the side of the mud house, and inside that tiny window, a small light turned on. I looked at the photo in my hand again. The eyes of the sleeping Tunde in the picture were no longer closed. They were open, and they were looking straight at me. I threw the picture down on the passenger seat like it was a hot coal. My hand was burning. I could not believe what my eyes were seeing. The Tunde in the picture was awake. He was looking at me. I looked outside at the hole again. The small mud house inside the iron box was getting bigger. It was swelling up like bread inside a hot oven. I saw tiny things moving around the mud house. They looked like ants, but they had 2 legs and 2 hands. They were tiny people made of red mud. They were marching out of the box, coming towards my car. I screamed. I turned the key of my G-Wagon with force. The engine roared to life. Vroom! I thanked God. I shifted the gear to reverse and pressed the accelerator down to the floor. The engine screamed. The tires spun fast. Smoke covered the air, but the car did not move 1 inch. It was as if a giant hand was holding the car down. I looked out of the window. The red earth was alive. The mud was climbing up the tires. It was wrapping around the wheels like a thick snake. It was pulling the car down into the ground. I knew I could not stay inside that car. If the car went down, I would go down with it. I opened the door and jumped out into the night. I did not look back. I did not take my phone. I did not take the key. I just ran. I ran towards the village path. The bush was dark and full of noise. Usually, the village night is quiet, but tonight the bush was angry. The branches of the trees were whipping my face. Slap, slap. It felt like the trees were beating me for disturbing their peace. The grass was wrapping around my ankles, trying to trip me. I fell down 2 times. I scraped my knees. My expensive white senator suit was torn and dirty. I did not care. I stood up and continued running. I was panting like a dog that has been chasing a rabbit. My chest was burning. I could hear something behind me. It was a wet, sliding sound. Slip, slip, slip. It sounded like heavy mud being thrown against a wall. It was getting closer. I ran faster until I saw the first house of the village. The village was dead silent. There was no light anywhere. Even the dogs were not barking. Everyone had locked their doors. They knew. They all knew what I had done. I ran straight to Femi's house. I knew he was the only one who could save me. I saw a faint light coming from under his door. I banged on the wooden door with both my fists. Bam, bam, bam. I shouted, "Femi, please open this door." I shouted, "Bio, help me." I screamed that I was sorry. I begged him not to leave me outside with the thing in the dark. Femi's voice came from inside the house. He did not sound angry. He sounded sad and far away. He said, "Tunde, go away."
He said, "Do not bring the land to my house." I shouted that I am alone. I told him nobody's with me. I told him to open the door, let me enter. Femi said, "Tunde, look at your legs." He said, "You are not alone. You are carrying it." I looked down at my legs in the moonlight. I wanted to vomit. My shoes were gone. My feet were covered in red mud. But it was not just mud. The red soil was moving. It was bubbling like soup on fire. It was crawling up my legs, going under my trousers. I tried to use my hand to wipe it off. I slapped my leg, but the mud grabbed my hand. It was sticky like glue. It was warm like blood. It held my hand against my leg. I pulled and pulled, but I was stuck to myself. The red earth was eating me. Then I heard a voice. It was not Femi. It was not Bio. The voice came from the mud on my body. It whispered my name. "Tunde, welcome home." The voice from the mud entered my ear like a cold worm. It whispered, "Tunde, you are too noisy." Then the red mud jumped from my neck to my mouth. It covered my lips tight. I tried to scream, but the sound was trapped inside my throat. That was the only noise I could make. The mud tasted like rusty iron and old blood. I used my fingernails to scratch the mud from my face. I scratched until my skin was bleeding, but the mud was hard like dried cement. It would not move. It sealed my mouth shut. I turned around to run out of the village. I said in my mind that if I can reach the tarred road, I'm safe. I said the power of the village stops at the junction where the electric pole is. I forced my legs to move. 1 step, 2 steps, but my legs were heavy like bags of cement. The mud was pulling me down, making me heavy. Every time I put my foot down, the ground made a sucking sound. Schluck, schluck. It was a disgusting sound. Then a terrible thing happened. I wanted to turn left towards the main road, towards Lagos, towards safety, but my left leg refused to answer me. My left leg turned right. My right leg followed it. I shouted inside my head. I commanded my legs to stop. I am the owner of this body. I am Chief Tunde. But my legs did not listen to me. I was like a passenger in my own body. The mud was driving me now. It was marching me back into the bush. It was taking me back to the land I cleared, back to Ile-Eeru. I passed the village square. I saw the big Ile-Eeru tree in the center. In the moonlight, the branches of the tree looked like long black fingers trying to catch the stars. I saw something standing under the tree. It was an old man wearing a white singlet and a tied wrapper. He was holding a lantern. I looked closely. My heart stopped. It was my father, my dead father. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to cry, "Papa, help me. I'm sorry I did not listen." But my mouth was sealed with the red clay. My father lifted the lantern and looked at me. His face was full of sorrow. He looked tired. He did not wave. He did not smile. He just pointed his finger towards the bush, towards the hole I dug. He was showing me where I must go. He was showing me my punishment. Then the wind blew, and the smoke from the lantern covered him. When the smoke cleared, he was gone. My legs kept walking. I was crying, tears washing the mud on my cheeks, but the mud just drank my tears. I walked past the last house. The insects were singing a loud song now. They were buzzing and clicking. It sounded like they were chanting my name. Tunde, Tunde, Tunde. I reached the clearing.
The moon was bright, shining directly on the spot where my machine had dug the earth. My big black car was gone, swallowed completely. The ground looked smooth where the car used to be. The heavy caterpillar machine was tipped over on its side like a child's toy that was thrown away. And in the middle of the cleared land, the hole was waiting. It was not just a hole anymore, it was breathing. Steam was coming out of it like a pot of boiling rice. The earth around the hole was moving, rising and falling, like the chest of a giant who is sleeping. My legs walked me to the very edge of the hole and finally stopped. The mud on my mouth loosened and fell off in wet clumps. I could speak now, but I had nothing to say. My throat was dry. I looked down into the deep, dark pit. The red soil at the bottom began to swirl. It started to form a face, a giant face made of earth. It was my face. The giant mud face opened its mouth, and I heard the sound of 1,000 people speaking at once. They said, "Tunde, you wanted to build on us. Now you will build with us." The ground under my feet disappeared, and I did not fall down. I was pulled in.
The darkness was not black like the night. It was red, thick, heavy red darkness. I was not falling down a deep hole anymore. I was swimming in the earth. The mud pressed against me from every side. It was tighter than the tightest suit I ever wore. It squeezed my chest so hard I could not breathe, but I did not choke. The soil entered my nose and my ears, but I did not die. I realized with a big shock that I did not need to breathe air anymore. I was becoming part of the ground. My expensive clothes melted away. My gold watch stopped ticking and dissolved into rust. My skin felt strange. It was no longer soft skin. It was becoming hard and rough. My fingers became roots. My toes became stones. My blood became water. I tried to remember who I was. I said in my mind, "I am Chief Tunde Balagoon. I am a rich man. I have property in Lekki." But the words sounded weak. The land laughed at me. The land whispered that you are nothing but dust, and to dust you have returned. I lost track of time. In the ground there is no morning or night. There is only cold and heat. When the sun shines on the surface, I feel a warm blanket on my head. When the rain falls, I drink the water that seeps down. I can feel the worms moving through my body. I can feel the ants building their houses inside my ribs. I am the foundation of the hotel that was never built. I am the prisoner of Ile-Eeru. Many weeks passed, or maybe it was years. I was lonely. I missed the noise of Lagos. I missed the sound of cars and people arguing. I missed reading the news. I used to read 3 newspapers every morning with my coffee. Now I only had the silence of the roots and the dead. I was hungry for information. I wanted to know if my shares in the bank were doing well. I wanted to know who won the election. Then, one morning, I felt footsteps. Boom, boom, boom. It was not a machine. It was a human being walking on top of me. I knew the weight of those steps. It was my brother, Femi. He walked slowly to the center of the land. He stopped right above where my face used to be. I tried to shout. I tried to say, "Femi, my brother, please dig me out. Please bring a shovel. I will give you all my money." But no sound came out. The grass simply rustled in the wind. Femi knelt down. I felt his knees pressing into the soil. He took a small hand trowel and dug a shallow hole. It felt like he was scratching an itch on my back. He did not put a seed or yam inside the hole. He took a roll of paper from his pocket. He dropped it into the hole and covered it gently with sand. He whispered to the ground. He said, "Good morning, Tunde." He said, "I know you are bored down there." He said, "I brought you something to read." He said, "Do not worry. Nobody will disturb you again. We have fenced the place. You are safe. You are the owner now." He patted the ground 2 times, stood up, and walked away. I focused my attention on the paper he buried. I used my new senses to look at it. It was a fresh copy of the Punch newspaper, dated today. My spirit rushed to it. I read the headlines. I read the sports news. I read the business section. I devoured every word. This was my food now. I understood finally. The box I found at the beginning, the one with the photo, was not empty before. Someone else was there before me. My father was feeding him, just like Femi is feeding me now. It is a cycle. So if you ever come to my village and see a big piece of land with a high concrete fence and plenty of bush, do not jump the fence. Do not try to buy it. Do not bring a bulldozer. Just throw a newspaper over the wall for me and keep walking, because the soil keeps what it takes, and I am very lonely down here waiting for a new roommate.